How about them trades? We got the Dallas Cowboys today. We're going to go through this roster comprehensive style and really talk about the nuts and bolts and the stars. So let's look on up into the field, the vision, because we got to figure this thing out. Dallas Cowboys got a lot of interesting pieces coming into this mold, but we're going to start with the offense before we get to the defense. What needs to be improved? The tackle position. It's bad. It's not good. They need help here. So we're going to be looking at this free agency, the draft. Two areas that I'm going to be targeting tackles because it's not good. Terrence Steele just got benched, and he just got beat multiple times by Josh Sweat. He was pulling this all game long because it was no easy sweat for. He didn't even have to break a sweat too many times. Getting in a Dak Prescott slap, and that's been a problem the entire season for Dak Prescott, is the lack of protection on the outside. The interior looks great, and it is great, but they need some help. They need some tackle help. They need a pass protect. They got a good run blocking unit. If you can't pass protect, though, as well as Dak Prescott is playing this season, it's just not good enough. On the other side, Tyler Guyton, he's not been good enough, especially when it's true one-on-one pass sets at the end of the game in Arizona, like when it mattered most, bam, like they got pressure consistently, and that is a big key. I'm not ready to give up on Guyton. I think he has, like for me personally, he has definitely gotten better this season comparative to last year. So there is definitely some optimism here for me with Tyler Guyton. There's still a lot there. He is a raw football player coming to Oklahoma, so you kind of have to expect that with his game. Nathan Thomas filled in over at right tackle for Terrence Steele. That's something that is new for him too, and he didn't look great at the end of the game. Besides that, though, he was okay. I thought he was okay up until like the last couple of drives and whatnot. Overall, Thomas is a guy I know they're very, very high on, and he is a guy that has a lot of traits you look for. Like, he looks better at right tackle. He's a little more natural, I would say, and certainly as a pass protector. So maybe he can develop. He's somebody that I would love to see. Give him some time because they got to make a decision on Terrence Steele this offseason. And my guess is they move on from him and save a little bit of money there. Tackle, though, is definitely a priority. I'm not going to talk too much about the interior. They're in a really good spot. They have depth as well. Now, there are some contracts we'll have to talk about. Bass are restricted. Hoffman is a UDFA. Try to bring back those guys. Their interior, though, with BB back from injury. Booker has been amazing as a rookie. Smith hasn't had his all-pro level season. He even got beat by Walter Nolan in this past game. And throughout the year, he has just not been the same level of player. He's still very good. I don't want to. He's also dealing with an injury that's been nagging on him. So that's something, too, to keep in mind. I still think he's one of the best interior offensive linemen. Look at all the Tylers they have here. So we'll look for a Tyler in this draft class to make sure to go into this offensive line, right? His name's got to be Tyler, of course. On to the tight end room here. And this is something I will say with Jake Ferguson. Too many drops. He's had some fumbles. He's definitely taken a bit of a step back over these past couple of seasons. Still think he's a good, solid, like underneath weapon. He just doesn't really have a whole ton of vertical game to his point at this point in his career, it seems like. He is just going to be somebody that going into 2027 will be in a contract year. And that would be something, well, he's a free agent in 2027. So next season, he'll be in a contract year. Same thing with Schoonmaker as well, who will be going into a contract year. I believe like all these guys will be contract years going into next year. So that is something to consider. And drafting a developmental tight end would be something that would be really, really nice. Probably more of a day 3 need with just other priorities. And maybe not a super strong draft class when it comes to the tight ends. There's some guys later, I think on day 3 you can find to be a good developmental piece. Schoonmaker has not worked out. He's also had a case of the dropsies. On to the wide receiving core, which is been one of the more strength areas of this roster. You got some good ones here with George Pickens. As long as he's not committing unsportsmanlike conduct penalties or doing something crazy. He did have a fumble too this past week, Arizona. But overall this season, he's been amazing. CeeDee Lamb, awesome as well when he's healthy out there. Had another good week. A couple of great catches versus Arizona. And Ryan Flournoy, throughout the season, when he gets his opportunities, he shows he's got strong hands. I would give him as many reps as you can. Unfortunately, Turpin, the exact opposite. Super explosive. Get him on some screens and some underneath throws. He's a great electric returner. However, the hands have been a big problem for Turpin. So that's one thing with Cavante. But anyway, you got Jalen Tolbert, who's a free agent. I'm not super worried about that. You got Mingo, who unfortunately is injured right now. Overall, I think Flournoy, Pickens, Lamb, really good combination there with Turpin as your gadget guy and return man. Pickens is a free agent. We'll have to talk about that here in a little bit when we get into that free agency strategy. Let's go on to the running back position now, and Javonte Williams did have a critical fumble there in the fourth quarter, but he's been really, really good this season. He's also a good pass protector. He laid a monster hit on Garrett Williams in pass pro on a blitz, and he's done that really throughout his career. He's a solid pass protecting 3-down workhorse, and I don't think he would be insanely expensive to bring back. He's had a good year, and that's going to be something we'll talk about once again in the free agency strategy on what that could be. My guess is going to be somewhere between $7 to $10 million is what Javonte Williams will end up getting out there, because he does have an injury history, and that could push him down more into that $7 million range, just depending on how things go. He's certainly a guy would be looking to try to bring back, and especially since their depth right now, Jaden Blue has not instilled a whole ton of confidence. He's also had some ball security issues and stuff like that in his past, and I think that's one of the things that's limited him from seeing the field and whatnot. Miles Sanders is injured. Hunter Luepke is your fullback. You got Phil Maffo's injured. So that is where we're at right now. They need some depth in this running back room. This would be just something that would be UDFA. Now, if Williams is not back, then we'll have to talk about more of this in a little bit. For right now, though, I would say they need somebody else in here to at least compete with their roster where it's at right now. Quarterback, Dak Prescott, not been the problem. I know Dak gets a ton of hate, and I think it's way overstated. He's been fantastic this season, and when you have an actual decent offensive line, I think it could even be better for this football team. That is a big priority for me. Prescott, though, is not the priority. He's the franchise quarterback, at least at the moment. I think he's earned that pay, too. He's been a top 3 quarterback, I would say, this season. Joe Milton is the backup there, who is under contract. Defensively wise, let's go on to the new additions here. Would you start with this defensive line? Whew. You got Kenny Clark. You got Ben Quinn Williams, who comes over from the New York Jets. You can agree or disagree with the trade, but I'll tell you, as a Jets fan, Quinn Williams is a beast. And you're saying, a Jets fan doing a Cowboys video? Hey, I watch all 32 games. I watch full games out here, so I do watch all of them. I try to do my best, and I'm not perfect or anything, so definitely hit me up. I don't follow every single interview with the Cowboys and stuff like that, so some of the intricacies I don't always know. I try to keep everything I can, though, and write notes each week when I watch games, so that's kind of where I'm at. I do a little disclaimer there, all right? I do watch the games. I watch all of them. And with it, though, Quinn Williams is a beast. You're getting a stud. He hasn't maybe had as much of an impact in pass rush this year, in my opinion, as a Jets fan, but he certainly is still a playmaker out there, especially in run game. He has been fantastic this year. Osa Odighizuwa, man, I'm not seeing a whole ton of him this year. I feel like he's kind of ghosted it many times. Kenny Clark's been an instant impact for this football team. So Clark has been a really nice add for them. I think Quinn Williams is going to be wearing number 92 since Kenny is wearing 95. So you got Quinn Williams in here with Kenny, with Osa Odighizuwa. That's a really, really good tandem of 3. And it's clear that Jerry Jones and this organization is valuing interior guys. He wants dudes that get pressure up on that. There's A and B gaps. And that's fine. You know what I mean? Because Matt Eberflus is that type of dude. Like, Eberflus wants your 3 techs. He wants your guys on the interior. He values that. And for his defense to really run, you need a guy like Quentin Williams, Kenny Clark, and Osa Odighizuwa. Like, those 3 guys are going to be wreaking havoc up there for this defensive interior. He puts a lot of pressure on those guys. Now, Jadeveon Clowney, I think, has been really good, actually, for this football team. Had another great week with Arizona most recently. And throughout this season, he's been very, very solid. Been their most consistent pass rusher, I would say. Ezra who's come along, great. Another good week for him in this past one. Well, obviously they had the bye week, but at Arizona or in Dallas, but first Arizona, he was excellent. Dante Fowler's been a good situational player. Sam Williams, unfortunately, been more of a special teams impact for them. James Houston, he's been their best number 3 pass rusher. He's made an impact for sure in that regard. So I would say this, with Houston under contract, obviously Ezra, you're going to have to make a decision here, because besides that, they need another edge rusher in here. I will still say you're going to have to make a decision, because there's a couple areas that this team has some big needs on. So when we get into this overall free agency draft strategy, you're going to have to really focus in this team and saying to themselves, okay, do we feel confident we can get a really good edge rusher in the draft? If you're picking between like 15 and 18, who's on the board right there? Do we think David Bailey is going to be available? Are they going to be looking for more of a strong side end to pair along with Ezra on the opposite side? That's another thing to consider. So maybe a Keldrick Falk would be more of their type of pass rusher that they're going to try to find that complementary piece on the opposite end. And will he be available in that range is a big thing that you're going to have to really, really look at. And do we want to reach on Mateo Uyunglele maybe with that Green Bay Packers pick still? So you have to really encompass that, and you're looking at who's better available. We want to go after tackle and free agency. Do we want to go after edge rusher free agency? Safety, corner are two big areas. I think corner could be an excellent value when you're looking in that range where their picks are currently at. Maybe even safety. Caleb Downs probably going to be off the board at that point. So that's what I'm saying. We have to kind of look at this whole approach with free agency, where they're picking in the draft, and kind of put this whole thing together. But edge rusher is definitely a need for them. They need to find at least some depth here. I try to bring back Clowney. I think he's been a solid player for them. So maybe they can bring him back on a cheap 1-year contract. And he seems to like go 2-year deals for teams and stuff. So, or like 1 year, and then he'll stay with the team for another year, and then he'll end up going to a new team. So it's kind of where it goes with Clowney. Let's go on to the linebacking core. And when you got Overshown coming back this week, now you got Logan Wilson into the fold. These guys should overhaul this linebacking core, in my opinion. Now, Logan Wilson was not having a good year for Cincinnati. Like, let's just be real. He really was not. But a change of scenery might do him really, really good. He's still a good linebacker. I'm very excited that he is now a Dallas Cowboy. And his contract, too, is very favorable. It's $6.5 million going into the next year's cap hit. Nothing crazy for a starting linebacker. And definitely feel like this grouping is a very solid grouping as well. Like, Overshown is the fire in there. Logan Wilson can kind of be that steady Eddie kind of leader, Mike guy in there. So I feel like this is a good solid room to build around. Jack Sanborn, what they were kind of hoping, unfortunate injuries, and just at this point, I don't know if he's going to be back. With Maurice Luaflau, Shamar James. James has made some plays. All right, I think he's a guy that's still a developmental player, probably more of a year 2 guy anyway. Kenneth Murray's been fine, but really you need an upgrade here. This linebacking room in general has been a mess. So would I still say this is something they could look at in the offseason? Absolutely, and we will be. We'll be trying to invest in this, whether it's free agency in the draft, find some depth, / a developmental guy, because Logan Wilson would be a contract year in 2027. He'll be a free agent there. Overshown with his injury risk and history, that is something we need to make sure we have some help there just in case. But this room looks better. It really does. And we'll see how it goes down the stretch. And then when we do another mock draft in the offseason, I'll kind of have a little more of a feel and vibe of where we're at that point. Cornerback, this is a big need. This is an area we have to address. It will be something I address early in the draft. There's no spoiler here. This is something we're going to be looking at in the draft. I think that's where they're picking. Makes a lot of sense. You have Siobhan Revel, though. I like Revel a lot, and I think he will be an instant impact for this football team. Really going to keep a close eye on what he brings. I think he's going to be ringing up at number 39. I just got some sort of notification about gesturing with my hands or what. I'm like, whoa, really? I'm telling you, it's getting more and more crazy with this AI and things like that. It automatically knows what's going on. Anyway, back to the cornerback room here. Really excited to see Siobhan Revel back in. And I think that he'll be an immediate upgrade in the secondary. With Deron Bland having the worst week of his season versus Arizona, it was not good. He was not good at tackling. He wasn't good in coverage. Harrison had his best game, I feel like, one of his best games of the season. Just really rough. And I'm not like, at this point, it's tough to worry about the contract and what they're doing. However, Bland's also had some really, really good weeks this season, too. Just most recently, it is a little bit of a sour taste in the mouth, so there's that. I don't want to overreact a little bit to it. He's got to play better, though, than he did this past game versus Arizona. Kaiir Elam is a good backup at this point, but you need an upgrade here. Trevon Diggs is likely done with his Cowboy career at this standpoint. Kalen Carson, Wake Forest, second year. It's limited. I want to see more of a sample size. So far this season, he's been better. It's just a lack of sample size. He really wasn't targeted. Reddy Stewart, good blitzer and everything. Good backup to have. Bridges, he's been beat a lot there. When I've seen him out there on the field, he just gets beat a ton. So that's why I'm saying, like, we need help. Josh Butler is an interesting player to watch out for. There's just not a lot that I'm saying I feel really confident in, and that's why I'm saying we are going to be looking for an upgrade here in this cornerback room. It is a huge need. And maybe we just put Bland back in the slot, do something like that. If you had Revel, somebody else on the outside, and Bland in the slot, maybe that'd be a little bit better. Safety, another big area we have to upgrade. Hooker, I expect them to move on from this offseason. They could save around $7 million. Donovan Wilson's a free agent. I expect them to move on this offseason. Marquise Bell, he's gotten beaten coverage too many times. He can be like this hybrid guy who can cover some tight ends here and there. Still think they need to upgrade here in the secondary. So 2 new safeties very much in play. Wenia Thomas has been dealing with some migraines, so we'll see about that. But for right now, I'm going to be prioritizing some safeties as well. Caleb Downs, if he was available, like if I felt confident Caleb Downs going to be available in their picks, that would be a slam dunk pick in my opinion. On to the coaching staff here. Which is coaching staff? I will say this. Like, I think Schottenheimer was very hated on going into the offseason. I think he's proven some people wrong. Like, he's not a bad coach. Does he give you like a high ceiling or anything like that? Maybe not. But I've been impressed. I think that the offensive side of the ball has been fantastic. So there's that with Schottenheimer. Now, one thing I will say, I want to see a little more discipline with this football team because a lot of penalties. I think they're the second highest, is what they said this past, when I was watching the Arizona game. They said they were the second highest penalized team. I believe Jacksonville is, because I also watched the Jacksonville game, and he was saying they're the first highest penalized team. So, yes, penalties are a problem, and it is something week in, week out. I'm like, oh, here we go, penalty machines. They need to get a little more discipline with that. And that can be something that can be a little up and down strategical each and every year, the changes. But this team definitely want to see a little bit more of discipline when it comes to that. Matt Eberflus, with all of this talent coming in, that is going to be the key here for him because you got a little bit less excuses now with more talent. That's why I know Matt Eberflus is a solid defensive mind. So that's why I'm not ready to push the code red. I do think you probably give him another year. Some Cowboys fans will say, no chance. Let's move on. Let's find a different defensive coordinator. And that's fair, but I think Eberflus still gives you a solid defensive mind. Unless you feel like you fit a clear upgrade, I don't think I would be doing anything. That's at least where I'm at the moment. All right, let's get into that free agency strategy right here, where we're going to start off with some team cuts. And with Terrence Steele, Malik Hooker, those both can get us back to green for the cap space. We got to make some maneuvers here. And I just feel like we need to upgrade in general at tackle, safety. So let's do that. Now, let's go on to a new contract for Kenny Clark. I really feel like they're going to keep Kenny Clark, especially with the way he's playing so far. I do think there is going to be a reworked deal on the horizon, mainly because none of it's guaranteed. Now, if they do decide to keep him, there are bonuses that will hit and go into effect. So that's something where the Cowboys may want to say, all right, let's redo this thing. For Kenny Clark as well, it's a win because he gets money up front and he gets guarantees as well, where he's like, okay, probably is going to be about 2 years of this contract that will be pretty much guaranteed for Kenny Clark, which allows him to give some security into that long-term final deal for him. It puts him in line, guys, with like DJ Jones, Grover Stewart, and I think that's a very fair, comparable standpoint for where Kenny Clark is at in his career as a good football player. 3 years, $39 million, and that is going to lock him into a longer-term deal, hopefully keep him a Cowboy for a little bit here. And it gets that cap hit down too for us to be able to save some money off of his $20+ million hit. First year for this contract would then be $7 million. Now let's go on to the restructures here. We are going to have to restructure a couple of guys. Prescott, Lamb, Tyler Smith, all guys that we figure, they're franchise players for us. And that is why I'm doing this, to get that cap number. We have a lot of flexibility. I don't want to go too crazy, even though I did add some cap restructures into it. We're going to have to do that because we have to re-sign some guys here, which let's go ahead and talk about right now. I'm going to start off with Javonte Williams, George Pickens on offense. I'm going to give Pickens the tag, which would be $29 million roughly, and a mine. But $29 million, it's like a mine. But Javonte Williams, I'm going to give him 2 years. I'm still thinking about the mime. Sorry, maybe the mime. Ooh, yeah, we're pulling the mime stuff out here. I couldn't be on. That'd be hard. That's a hard job. I'll tell you right now. Underrated. We talk about underrated football players. I think underrated are minds and what the job they do. It's hard. Javonte Williams, 2 years, $18 million, $9 million average. I think that's very fair. I'm trying to give him a decent. It's around the Monty range. And then you got Brock Hoffman and Brandon Aubrey. He is a restricted free agent, so maybe they just give him a second-round tender. I figured let's just extend him. Get him now, just in case. I want to make sure we lock him up. Brandon Aubrey's a beast. He did miss that 68-yard field goal. I would have loved to see him tie Little out there. That would have been pretty cool if he would have tied Cam Little. But anyway, he'll get an opportunity, I'm sure, at some point still. Hoffman, good depth there at $3 million. Jadeveon Clowney, I want to bring him back if possible as well. Now, he might want a little bit more than that. I don't know. But you could teeter some of these deals as well. Something like Brock Hoffman maybe he only gets $2 million or something like that. Who knows? And maybe Clowney gets 5. Certainly things that we can make some adjustments. I always try to leave some sort of leeway with these guys too. I brought back CJ Goodwin as special teamer and stuff like that. He'll probably just, as Cowboy for life type of thing at this point. So it is what it is. And we go on to the UDFA. I also include a little bit of miscellaneous with the practice squad spend, which roughly tends to be around $3 to $4 million, depending on team to team. TJ Bass, Reddy Stewart, Josh Butler, Waniah Thomas, and there's a couple of other guys, as I mentioned before, that we include in the practice squad budget here to get them down there to around $8 and some change million for some of these guys, these restricted free agents. Now, we go on to the outside free agent signing, where we're going to bring in a couple of guys. Max Mitchell as some depth on offensive line as a swing tackle. Kevin Byard and a Reed Blankenship. Obviously, Byard has experience with Matt Eberflus, and I think it would make a lot of sense. 1 year, $7 million to come in and be just a reliable, steady player that he has been throughout his career, and he still is playing at a very high level. Reed Blankenship coming and stealing him over from the Eagles. I had to do it. Come on, man. We got to fly him on over here to Dallas. I always love to steal individual players, and this is going to be one of those. 3 years, $21 million to add a player into the back end on more of a longer-term deal that is a very favorable cap situation. Not a very expensive deal, but a solid player that can just hopefully be a reliable player for us in the back end, and at least gets us in a position now at the safety spot where I'm like, okay, we don't have to force a need in the first round now. Draft spend roughly $5 million. So let's look at the roster before the draft. Here, highlight the needs once again. Tackle. We are going to be looking at tackle. I'm prioritizing it over edge. I'm going to say it right now. I would love to get an edge rusher early, but I'm going to prioritize tackle over edge at this point. At least we have some decent ability there with our edge rushers with Clowney back and Ezra could go into year number 2. Feel even better about that. And then Houston can be your situational guy. We will definitely invest in the edge position. We'll probably try to double dip if we don't get an edge rusher in the first round. Besides that, running back depth will be something I look at. A tight end to develop for the future will be something I look at. Wide receiver, it's not priority 1 at this point. It is something maybe ideally we could get something. Maybe this team trades back to and gets more draft capital. I could see that being a case. I don't project trades in these mock drafts just to make it simple. A lot of times I try not to. Sometimes I do, but in this case, I'm not going to. On to the defense here. And as I mentioned before, edge rusher, a big need. Top need, though, is corner. We got to invest in it. I do feel like Revel will be a starter for them. And then you got Bland, who can put him in the slot, maybe more full-time. Let's find an outside cornerback to complement this 3 set of skill set guys. Kalen Carson, let's see if he can continue to develop, of course, but ideally maybe he can be a 4th cornerback there with like guys like Reddy Stewart, who can be your backup slot, and Josh Butler out there on the outside as well. Linebacker, I will be looking at investing still. I didn't go in free agency, just kind of ran out of money, so we'll be looking in the draft. Luafau, James, more experience under the belt. Maybe I feel a little bit better about that. Hopefully those guys can continue to develop and get a little bit better. Safety, another area where we could look at investing a little bit like a day 3 pick, since Bell, Waniah Thomas may not be on the roster that long. Kevin Byard, 1-year deal. All areas that we could look at still at the investing here. But at least I feel like you could go into next season with this group and still be fine. Elijah Clark, another guy that I do like coming out of Syracuse. He's played a little bit, and he's actually been okay. Nothing crazy. I haven't seen enough of a sample size there. Let's go on to the draft, though. Let's go. Let's bring on Mansour Delane. He is going to be an immediate impact for them at this cornerback position. They need help there. We're going to plug him in right away as a starter to go along there with Bland in the slot, keep him there in the slot, and then you have Siobhan Revel on the outside. I think that's a fantastic combination with Delane and Revel with your 2 complementary skill sets on the outside and Bland in the slot. So we're rocking it up with the LSU corner, as I had a fantastic season. I think he'll be a smooth operator in zone coverage and can play man coverage as well. Let's go on to 24, Caleb Lomu. I know Dane Brugler seems to be low on Lomu and everything like that. Had him 41 on his big board. I don't care. I think Lomu is a fantastic football player, and that just means somebody's going to get a really good player towards the end of the first round. I think tackle will move him still into the first round. If he falls like a Bernard Raymond sort of situation, then, oh, man, it's going to be crazy. But I think Lomu is still somebody that I would probably take as tackle 1 in this draft class. That's just me. I like Lomu a lot. So let's go ahead. Whether he's right tackle, left tackle, I do not care. Let him compete. They need an upgrade. I think he'll be a way better. I think he'll be better pass protector day 1 in this roster, maybe at this point. So I'm adding Lomu. As I mentioned before, I'm prioritizing tackle over edge in this case. Let's go on to round number 4. We're going edge rusher LT Overton to give him more of a base end, more of a strong side guy to go along with Donovan Ezraku, who can develop, be a rotational player early on behind Jadeveon Clowney. And with Overton, I get it. The production's not been there. Some of it is partially in the scheme at Alabama. I still am holding out hope for LT Overton. I think he's going to be a good, solid football player. I'm not saying he's going to be like a 10 sack guy a season. It's hard to find guys like that in general. But I think he's going to be a productive guy in terms of a run defender and will just be a really nice football player and a rotation. I like him. I still like him. So there is that. It's not been a great season for him. Still think he can be an impact for you, especially in the fourth round. He's going to probably drop now to late round 3, round 4 range is my guess, maybe even further, depending. Let's go on to Red Murdoch. What a name! It sounds like, what is there? There's a show, Murdoch, right? An old school show, Scott Matlock, right? I think it's something like that. But anyway, we're gonna take the sleuth here from Buffalo, the linebacker. Gives me a little bit of Dorian Williams vibes and just a little bit of a hitter there, undersized, but definitely just a little hammer up there in as a blitzer and as a run defender, a tackler, just all over the field, high pursuit guy, and somebody that you add into the room, give you some depth here and some more future ability at this linebacker room. Just continue to invest in it. Hope you can hit on somebody, right? That's kind of the way I'm looking at it, because linebacker is one of those positions. A lot of times you find linebackers, good starting linebackers, late in the draft. It just is what it is. The instincts are such a critical part of that position. Round number 5 here, pick 177 projections, of course, with all these. I'm taking Will Helt from Clemson. This is a guy, I actually like Will Helt more than TJ Parker. Just my opinion. I think he is a really good pass rusher and somebody that has a really high motor as well, but he's not just a motor guy. He wins with his hands as well. Somebody that has the traits you look for too. He's not an elite athlete. He's not going to like bend you up crazy up the wazoo, bend it like Beckham sort of ability, but he definitely is a solid dude that can turn the corner. And as I said before, I think he's been a better player than TJ Parker this season. Maybe he doesn't have the traits that Parker has. I'm okay with it though. I'll take him here. Absolutely. Get some more pass rushers. So I figured since we didn't get a pass rusher in round 1, let's double dip. Let's take some chances, at least try to get some depth in the room. Then we go into John Michael Galenborg from Willie Omen. Hasn't been the season he had hoped for. I'll tell you, he'd probably saying to himself, so I should have come out last year. He's dealt with some injuries. He's dealt with some drops now. It's unfortunate. Galenborg, though, can be a really good developmental guy. I still think he can work on his blocking and get better in that department. He's got the frame to do it. And I think he's just a receiving guy that's going to help them out so much and give more of a vertical ability in this offense, too. So let him develop. He can be, tight end 3 going into next season for them. He doesn't have to be tight end 2 or anything like that. Let him develop, get more, get fully healthy, all those things. I like Galenborg. I really do. And I think he could be a steal for whoever gets him. Then final pick, Lucky Sutton. They need a little luck, right? For the Cowboys. We're going to go take him from San Diego State here, the running back who is a little bit of a bowling ball. He's an explosive bowling ball. He's not the most laterally quick or anything like that, but man, when he gets a burst going, he's going to be tough to tackle with that size and that explosiveness ability. I don't see him getting caught a whole ton from behind either. So that's the thing. Like, he isn't like the most the most twitched up guy or anything like that, but he definitely's got some explosiveness for his size. So watch out for him. Lucky Sutton, certainly a guy that at the end of the draft gives you some depth and overall fill out the roster at the running back room. Speaking of filling out the room, this is after the draft now and after free agency, everything we have done and hopefully helped out and build this roster. It's not perfect, I get it, but we have a limited draft picks and maybe they do trade back. I think there's a good chance at that. They maybe acquire something, whether it's a round 3 pick or something like that. Maybe they trade back into the second round to get a second and third rounder instead. A lot of options for this football team. But for right now, with where they're picking, we can still work things out. We got Caleb Lomu in the first round. I think he'll start at one of those tackle positions, whether it's right tackle or left tackle, depending on what you feel with Guyton. Do you want to keep him at left tackle, or do you want to move him back over to the right side? It's tough. It's going to be a tricky situation. I totally get that. But I think Lomu will be an instant impact for them at one of those tackle positions. And then at running back, we get some depth there. Same thing, tight end. Get a future, hopeful developmental tight end. Wide receiver, I didn't have the picks to do it, and I'm okay with that. I feel good about it. I mean, Ryan Flornay is a guy that I feel like can step up in that wide receiver 3 role. On to the defense now. And the defense line, we just kind of said, hey, we had to go corner. So I took the double dip approach on day number 3, where we added LT Overton and Will Helt. And both of those guys have a lot of upside. I think, well, at least I think they got high floors, actually. Maybe not insane upside, more high floors is the term I would give it. So they can be immediate impacts, at least in a rotation for this football team, which is something that they need. But we brought back Clowney because, hey, Clowney's played really well. And then Houston played well as a situational pass rusher. Donovan Ezraku, year number 2. You got those 3 stars up on the interior. So we're okay. I think this defense line will be pretty good, actually. I'm actually not worried about it. Looking at it like this, it's solid. I think so. And then, I mean, Mansour Delane is going to help them out a ton day 1. Revel, year number 2. Bland in the slot. Yeah, I think that secondary is looking way better. Same thing with the back end, too, with Kevin Byard and Blankenship. That's a solid 1-2 punch. I think their skill sets work really well. I didn't draft the safety here. I just decided to go after double dipping edge. I did definitely think about adding a safety. It just comes down to, I think Blankenship and Byard will get them by for this next season, and Thomas and Bell give them some depth there. We added in Red Matlock here as an inside linebacker at the end. But yeah, so he'll get you at least some special teams ability and just take another chance at linebacker. Because as I said before, I think that a lot of good linebackers in the NFL are late round draft picks / UDFAs. Because a lot of times it's really more about instincts than it is about flashy athleticism and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and add in a linebacker. Take a chance here on day number 3 to give him some help and give him some more depth. So that is it here for the Dallas Cowboys. The overall roster breakdown, mock draft and free agency, all those sort of things. Certainly let me know what you think, Dallas Cowboys fans. It's going to be very, very key on how they play towards the end of the season. They still have a chance to get in the playoffs, but the big thing here is I think they're going to have to come away from this next stretch. Obviously, they play the Raiders tomorrow, which should be a win for them. I don't want to say nothing too crazy, okay, but they need a win there. And then you're going to have a tough stretch. You got like the Lions, the Chiefs, the Eagles, I believe. Or maybe in the Rams too, something like that. But they're going to have to come away with like 2 or 3 wins out of those next 4 games. That is going to be critical. The rest of the schedule is very open that they can win, in my opinion. Yes, they are going to have to pull some big games, though, with some help on the defense. There's a really good chance. I really think that they still have a chance to get in the playoffs, but it will be tough. The NFC is going to be a real challenge. So we'll see how things go. Well, let me know. I hope you guys have a really good day.